Hi guys, it's JaJa and this is Cosmic Mirror Tarot. I have been called to do a video around abusive relationships and how that relates to the energies surrounding retrograde periods in particular. So, for those who don't know, a retrograde is when a planet, like right now, we are in Venus, coming up on Mercury, so we'll have both Venus and Mercury in retrograde. I think Venus goes until the end of the month, the 29th of January, and Mercury goes from the 13th to the 3rd of February. Um, a, a retrograde is basically the pathway of the planet. From our perspective, looks like it's going backwards. So the energy is reversed, right? This is why a lot of times, you know, if you see on Instagram and stuff like that, people will say like exes and stuff like that return. Really, what it is energy. So a lot of times, you can even be in a new relationship and find that the energy um, feels familiar. And that's really your mind playing tricks on you. Just like it is an illusion to us on our planet from our perspective that the planet is moving backwards. Um, the energy coming back is really an illusion that spirit is asking you to take a look at. There's some sort of trauma here that spirit wants you to reevaluate, reinvestigate, clear that energy, right? Because once the planet goes direct, then we have forward movement and Wheel of Fortune moving in a new energetic field, right? The whole point of a retrograde is to clear out the old to make way for the new, right? So a lot of times that's why, particularly in Mercury retrograde, they say don't start new contracts or move or something like that because the timing is not right. A lot of times you might just end up in the same energy that you were before, right? And the whole point of a new move or a new relationship or a new whatever is to get out of that energy. Now, if you left someone or something, right, that was toxic and it comes back around during a retrograde, it is the universe's way of saying you're still energetically tied to this, you need to clear it. Most people don't see it that way though. They'll look at it kind of with rose-colored glasses and think, okay, this person came back around, let's give it another shot, right? Again, when it comes to learning a lesson, Wheel of Fortune vibes, the more and more you go around that circle with someone, the more and more, or something, the more and more toxic it gets. So I'm going to use a domestic violence example. The cycle of violence, right? It starts with the actual physical act of the violence, right? Then you get the honeymoon phase, right? Your abuser comes in and they're apologetic and they're sorry and they're buying you gifts and it almost feels like how it did before the abuse happened, right? Where everything is fine. And that honeymoon phase can last for months, even a year, right? But then we get to the bottom of it, which is where the abuser then something triggers them, right? And their insecurities, their abandonment wounds, they're worried that you're going to leave or they did something, so now they need to blame you for what they did, right? And it starts these petty ass arguments that just build and build and build and build and build until we get back at the top, which is the violence, right? And it just goes around and around and around. The problem with this is every time you go around that circle, you lose a piece of yourself and the violence gets more and more intense, right? And the energy gets more and more intense because basically at this point you are trauma bonding with someone energetically, right? So then when you go to cut that cord, finally, it's dangerous. This is why they say that leaving a domestic violence situation is the most dangerous part, right? Because generally there's so much energy, there's so much resentment and anger and hate and drama and trauma already built up, right? So you pulling that away from a narc, where does that energy go, right? The narc only knows to displace the anger and the resentment on you, right? So we have this build up of resentment and anger and hate over years of conflict, right? Because most of the time, by the time you leave, you've gone through this multiple times, right? So we have this build up of energy. You pull the cord. The only place for that energy to go, right, is back towards you from a narc perspective, because they don't take responsibility for anything. This isn't mine. So they channel all of that built up resentment and anger back towards you when you go to leave. So that's just me energetically explaining what happens. I say all this because, again, right now we are in both Venus and Mercury retrograde. So the energies are very, very heavy. I've done 3 readings, and 2 out of the 3 readings were painful. They were heavy. I think what Spirit really wants to get across is that it doesn't matter how many times that you have gone around the circle with someone, everyone eventually gets to the point where they're done, and that is the point of it. You are always, while you're on the Wheel of Fortune path, no matter where you are on that wheel, you are always being divinely guided and supported. There are a plethora of resources available for you once you do decide to get off that wheel. The wheel of the cycle of abuse. I also think Spirit wants to communicate that it is okay. I've mentioned here several times, it took me 10 years to leave my last narc, right? The length of time that you stay, do not beat yourself up for it. Show yourself some grace. A couple of kind of just, Spirit wants me to communicate what helped me when I finally decided to leave, right? Couple things. My tribe. Being honest with my tribe about what was going on. Because the first thing a narc does is they separate you, or they stand in between you and the people who love you, so that they can isolate you to further manipulate you and keep you on that cycle, right? So even if it was, I mean, really, I only had one girlfriend, right, that I told fully what was going on, and but she knew, right, and so she knew if I called her at 2 in the morning crying, right, she knew to pick up. She knew to ask me if I was okay. She knew, you know what I'm saying? So even if it's just one person that you tell somebody, have that person as your emergency contact. Also, even if you're not ready to fully leave, engaging with a domestic violence shelter or a organization that helps people who are experiencing some sort of domestic violence is helpful. Just because even, most places will still let you do group therapy even if you are still with your abuser, right? Because the expectation isn't that you cut the cord from your abuser and then you hop into therapy. Most people don't do it that way. Most people actually start with therapy and then realize as they're going through therapy just how traumatic the experience is. And once they're educated, then they get the courage to leave, right? It's like once I was made aware of the cycle of abuse, of what it was doing to my body, because that was another thing that came out in group therapy, is kind of how PTSD and trauma really affect your brain. I couldn't figure out why I was having a hard time at work. I couldn't figure out why I was waking up in a panic, basically, right? And it's like small decisions, like what am I going to make myself for breakfast, gave me severe anxiety, right? And I started to feel out of control, right? It was just like I can't even, and then eventually you just completely emotionally shut down, right? So once you completely and emotionally shut down, that is kind of prime time to step into a group therapy in order to clear that energy out. So, in addition to group therapy, what also helped me was just getting doing more stuff for myself. Um, because the cycle of abuse keeps you so hyper focused on your narc, which is the point. That's what the narc wants, right? Like they want all of your attention, all of your time, all of your energy, right? Um, when I started going to group therapy and I realized, I stopped doing things that I loved, I stopped really taking care of myself, doing little things for myself, little self care routines, affirmations, meditation, right? And all of that is calming your nervous system, because if there's anything that you take away from this video, um, how you get off that wheel is calming your nervous system, because right now it's in fight or flight mode. Right? Like that's all it knows. All it knows is drama and trauma, right? And so when you go to think about, right, if you're in this trauma brain and you're always hypertensive kind of like vibe is what I'm getting, and you're trying to make a clear and educated decision on moving forward, um it's not possible, right? And so I think that's what spirit wants to communicate. It's like, don't you can't beat yourself up for not leaving, because your brain has been wired not to leave, right? It's like a drug addiction. That's the whole point of the cycle that the narc takes you on, right? It is a dopamine and cortisol addiction. Okay, your body has now been trained to the process. And so again, you ripping that cord, and you're used to this dopamine and cortisol push from your fight or flight response. Like you really do have to be cognizant of um, your mental state. And so doing little things for your mental state will help. I did very, very little of this, and that's all it took, right? Reaching out to my tribe, talking to my girlfriend, really letting her know what was going on, right? Mind you, I trust her with my life, like literally my life. I had plenty of friends that I had told what was going on in the beginning, that I am no longer friends with, because they weren't capable of handling what I was going through, and that's fine. You just have to recognize that. Like some people are just not meant for to be with you long term in your journey. Let those people go with grace. But everyone has one friend at least, right, that they can absolutely trust with their life, right? And so being honest with my girlfriend, mixed with the group therapy, mixed with, I'm talking 1 day a week self-care, right? Because in the beginning, doing my mirror affirmations of standing in the mirror and saying, I'm strong, I'm safe, I'm beautiful, I'm wise, I would cry, because it felt like a lie. It was just like, and my brain would tell me, I would hear my abuser's voice in my head telling me, no, you aren't any of these things, So I couldn't even get through a daily routine of affirmations. But I'm saying it only took a minimal amount of effort, but that small amount of energy of self-love, that small amount of energy of you telling the universe that I am trying to clear this. I'm weak, my body aches, my brain is addicted to the cycle, but like this is the most that I can do. Like I'm getting chills. It like that small amount of energy of choosing yourself, the Wheel of Fortune, the Death card, the Tower card, the Judgment card, the Justice card, like those heavy, heavy hand of God, the divine and destiny cards are behind you from that little amount of energy. I promise you. I promise you. So, um, yeah, again, I felt called to I'm struggling because, and honestly, I don't even fully know if I'm going to put out those videos just because um, they were really, really heavy with abusive situations. And I'm still trying to figure out myself what kind of readings I want to do. And I like to keep things positive. I like to keep things light. But really what I'm hearing from spirit is like, this is my experience. This is what I've been through, right? I know this very, very well because I've been through two abusive karmic relationships. And so there's a piece of me that just feels like there's someone out there who needs to hear this, you know? And yeah, so I say all of this. I will put information down below on how you can contact me. I was saying in, I believe it was the Sagittarius video for the Mercury Retrograde reading. If you are interested in speaking with me around my process, around what I did in more detail, give me a call or shoot me an email. But make sure that you let me know that that's specifically what you want to talk about. And we can absolutely go through it. And there's no judgment on my part. I went back more times than I can count to my narc, right? And if you have children with this person, shared resources with this person, I don't feel like it's fair to judge yourself for staying. Just know that I am an available resource for you. So, all right, so that's what I have. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, if you have any questions or comments, just reach out to me. I am available. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye.